The courtroom in Augusta, Maine was a study in stillness, its oak-paneled walls absorbing every sound except the faint hum of an overhead fan. Sunlight streamed through tall, arched windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor where dust motes danced like silent witnesses. Every seat was filled, from reporters scribbling furiously to locals whispering about the case that had gripped their small town for months. At the witness stand sat Lila Monroe, a 10-year-old girl with wide hazel eyes and a braid that hung over her shoulder, tied with a faded blue ribbon. Her hands clutched a worn sketchbook, its edges curled from countless nights of drawing to escape her fears. Lila's yellow sundress, dotted with tiny daisies, made her look even smaller in the imposing chair, her sneakers barely brushing the floor. She hadn't spoken a word in court yet, her silence a heavy presence that drew every eye. In the back row, near the heavy double doors, stood Rosa Alvarez, the Monroe family's maid for 6 years. A sturdy woman in her 50s with warm brown skin and graying hair pulled into a neat bun, Rosa's calloused hands were clasped tightly, her maid's uniform crisp, despite the early hour. Her dark eyes never left Lila, watching with a quiet intensity that seemed to hold the room together. Something unspoken passed between them, a bond forged in secrets and survival. Lila's parents sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, their faces etched with opposing emotions. Her mother, Claire Monroe, a pale woman with sharp cheekbones, gripped her lawyer's arm, her eyes red from sleepless nights. Her father, Gregory Monroe, a wealthy contractor with a commanding presence, sat rigid, his jaw clenched, his tailored suit unable to hide the tremor in his hands. This was a custody battle, but it felt like a war, with Lila caught in the crossfire. Lila hadn't spoken publicly since the night her parents' marriage imploded, a night no one fully understood. 6 months ago, police had been called to the Monroe estate after neighbors reported screams. Claire claimed Gregory had been abusive. Gregory accused Claire of manipulation. Lila, the only witness, had gone mute, her voice stolen by trauma. Therapists called it selective mutism, but Rosa knew it was more. Lila was protecting something or someone. Rosa's heart ached as she watched Lila's small frame tense under the judge's gaze. She remembered the first time Lila stopped talking, sitting in the kitchen with a half-eaten cookie, her eyes vacant. Rosa had knelt beside her, whispering, "You don't have to speak, pequeña." "I'll listen to your heart." That night, Lila had drawn a picture, a girl hiding under a bed, a shadow looming above, and slipped it into Rosa's apron pocket. Judge Samuel Hargrove presided over the courtroom, a man in his 60s with a stern face softened only by the lines of experience etched around his eyes. Known for his no-nonsense rulings, he'd seen countless custody disputes, but something about Lila's silence unnerved him. He adjusted his glasses, peering at the girl over the rim. "Lila," he said, his voice firm yet gentle, "this court needs to hear from you in whatever way you can." Lila's fingers tightened around her sketchbook, her knuckles white. She glanced at Rosa, a fleeting look that carried a world of trust. Rosa nodded almost imperceptibly, her lips pressing into a thin line. She'd promised Lila she'd be there, no matter what. But the weight of that promise felt heavier today, with Gregory's lawyer eyeing her like a predator, sensing weakness. Claire's lawyer stood, her voice sharp. "Your Honor, Lila's trauma is well documented. Forcing her to speak could cause further harm." Gregory's lawyer countered, "She's being coached, Your Honor." The mother's using her silence as a weapon. The room buzzed with tension, but Lila's eyes stayed on Rosa, as if anchoring herself to the one person who understood her truth. Rosa Alvarez was more than a maid to the Monroes. She was Lila's confidant, her protector. Born in Guatemala, she'd come to Maine seeking a better life, working tirelessly to send money to her family. Her quiet strength had drawn Lila to her from the start, a 5-year-old trailing her through the mansion, asking questions about Rosa's childhood. Over time, Rosa became Lila's safe harbor, especially as the Monroes' marriage frayed. 6 months ago, Rosa had been in the kitchen when the fight erupted upstairs. She'd heard Claire's cries, Gregory's shouts, and Lila's scream, a sound that still haunted her dreams. When she reached Lila's room, the girl was curled under her bed, trembling. Rosa had pulled her out, whispering, "You're safe now, pequeña." But Lila's eyes told a different story, one Rosa swore to keep secret until Lila was ready. Now, in the courtroom, Rosa felt Gregory's stare boring into her. He'd always dismissed her as the help, but today, his gaze held suspicion. Rosa's heart raced, but she stood tall, her hands steady. She'd taught Lila a secret signal, a subtle tap on her sketchbook, to call for her if she felt unsafe. That signal was their lifeline, and Rosa prayed Lila would use it today. The courtroom grew hotter as the morning dragged on, the fans hummed, doing little to ease the stifling air. Claire's lawyer presented medical reports detailing Lila's mutism and nightmares. Gregory's lawyer countered with character witnesses, painting Claire as unstable. Through it all, Lila sat still, her sketchbook a shield against the chaos swirling around her. Judge Hargrove leaned forward, his voice cutting through the arguments. "Enough. I need to hear from Lila herself. Child, can you tell us what happened that night?" The room fell silent, every eye on Lila. Her breath hitched, her fingers trembling as they traced the sketchbook's cover. She looked at Rosa, her eyes pleading. Rosa's chest tightened. She wanted to rush to Lila to shield her from the pressure, but she stayed rooted, her gaze steady. Then, Lila's hand moved, slowly, deliberately. She tapped the sketchbook twice with her index finger, a signal so subtle it could have been missed. Rosa's heart leaped. She stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Your Honor, may I approach the witness?" A murmur rippled through the gallery. Gregory's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection! The maid has no standing in this court." Claire's lawyer countered. "She's Lila's caregiver, Your Honor." "The child trusts her." Judge Hargrove raised a hand, silencing them. His eyes narrowed, studying Rosa's composed figure and Lila's hopeful gaze. "Approach, Miss Alvarez," he said, curiosity in his tone. Rosa walked down the aisle, her steps measured, ignoring Gregory's glare. As she reached Lila, the girl's shoulders relaxed slightly, her fingers loosening their grip on the sketchbook. Rosa knelt beside her, whispering, "I'm here, pequeña." "You're brave." Lila nodded, her eyes shining with unshed tears. The judge watched, his expression unreadable. "Miss Alvarez, what is your relationship with the child?" Rosa straightened, her voice clear. "I'm her maid, but more than that, I'm her friend. She trusts me when she can't trust anyone else." The words hung in the air, a challenge to the room's assumptions. Something shifted in the judge's gaze. Respect, perhaps, or suspicion. Unbeknownst to the courtroom, Rosa carried a secret that could upend the case. That night 6 months ago, Lila hadn't just drawn a picture. She'd given Rosa a letter, written in shaky pencil strokes, begging her to keep it safe. "Don't let Daddy see," Lila had whispered, her voice barely audible. Rosa had hidden the letter in her locker at the Monroe estate, unsure if she'd ever need to reveal it. The letter detailed what Lila had seen, not just her father's violence toward her mother, but something darker. Gregory had been smuggling money through his construction business, using the mansion's basement to store cash. Lila had stumbled upon it, and her discovery had triggered Gregory's rage. Rosa had promised to protect the letter, but only if Lila gave the signal to share it. Now, as Rosa stood beside Lila, she felt the weight of that promise. Gregory's lawyer was circling, ready to discredit her. "Ms. Alvarez, you're an employee, not family. Why should we trust you?" Rosa met his gaze, her voice steady. "Because I've seen what Lila's afraid of, and I won't let her face it alone." Lila's taps on the sketchbook weren't random. They were a code she and Rosa had developed in secret. After the incident, Lila had stopped speaking, but she'd communicate through drawings and gestures. Rosa had taught her the signal during quiet nights in the kitchen. 2 taps meant, "I need you to speak for me." It was their way of giving Lila control in a world that felt chaotic. Judge Hargrove leaned forward, his voice probing. "Lila, did you signal Miss Alvarez intentionally?" Lila nodded, her braid bobbing. The judge's eyes flicked to Rosa. "And what does this signal mean?" Rosa hesitated, glancing at Lila for permission. The girl tapped her sketchbook again, her eyes firm. Rosa took a breath. "It means she's ready to tell the truth, Your Honor. Through me." The courtroom buzzed, reporters scribbling furiously. Gregory's face paled, his hands gripping the table. Claire's lawyer stood, sensing an opportunity. "Your Honor, we request Ms. Alvarez be allowed to testify on Lila's behalf." The judge nodded, his gaze locked on Lila. "Proceed, Ms. Alvarez, but tread carefully." Rosa's voice filled the courtroom, steady but laced with emotion. "Lila hasn't spoken because she's scared, not just of what happened that night, but of what she saw before it. Mr. Monroe wasn't just fighting with Mrs. Monroe. He was hiding something in their basement." The room gasped, Gregory's lawyer shouting, "Objection! Hearsay!" The judge overruled, his eyes narrowing. Rosa continued, her words deliberate. "Lila saw boxes of cash, stacks of it hidden under tarps. She told me in a letter written the night of the fight. She was terrified her father would hurt her for knowing." Lila's hand reached for Rosa's, her fingers trembling. Rosa squeezed gently, grounding her. Gregory stood, his voice booming. "This is a lie! That woman's trying to ruin me!" The bailiff moved closer, but the judge's gavel cracked. "Sit down, Mr. Monroe, or I'll hold you in contempt." Gregory sat, his face flushed, but his eyes burned with fear. The courtroom was electric, every eye on Rosa and Lila. Rosa reached into her pocket, pulling out a folded envelope, its edges worn from months of safekeeping. "Your Honor, this is Lila's letter. She gave it to me that night, asking me to keep it safe until she was ready." She held it out, her hand steady, despite the pounding of her heart. The judge motioned for the bailiff to retrieve it. As the bailiff handed the envelope to Judge Hargrove, the room held its breath. He opened it carefully, unfolding a single sheet of notebook paper covered in Lila's childish scrawl. His eyes scanned the words, his face tightening. He glanced at Lila, then at Gregory, whose hands were now shaking visibly. The judge read aloud, his voice grave. "Daddy has money in the basement. He yelled at Mommy when I saw it. He grabbed me and said I'd be sorry if I told. I'm scared, Rosa. Don't let him know." The courtroom erupted in whispers, reporters' pens flying. Claire covered her mouth, tears streaming. Gregory's lawyer stammered, This is fabricated!" But the judge's glare silenced him. Judge Hargrove set the letter down, his hands steady but his eyes blazing. He looked at Lila, his voice softer than before. "Lila, is this your truth?" Lila nodded, her eyes meeting his for the first time. She tapped her sketchbook once, a new signal Rosa hadn't seen before. Rosa's heart sank. She didn't know what it meant, but she trusted Lila's courage. The judge turned to Gregory. "Mr. Monroe, these are serious allegations. I'm ordering an immediate recess to allow authorities to investigate your property." Gregory's face twisted in panic. "You can't do this based on a child's scribbles." The judge's gavel slammed. "I can, and I will. Court is adjourned for 2 hours." As the bailiff led Lila and Rosa out, Claire rushed to them, her voice breaking. "Lila, you're so brave." Lila didn't hug her back, her eyes distant, but she leaned into Rosa's side. Rosa wrapped an arm around her, whispering, "You did it, Pequeña?" But she knew the danger wasn't over. Gregory's secrets ran deep, and Lila had just lit a fuse. During the recess, police arrived at the Monroe mansion, a search warrant in hand. Rosa stayed with Lila in a quiet room at the courthouse, coloring in her sketchbook to keep her calm. Claire paced nearby, her lawyer on the phone, coordinating with investigators. "If there's money, it's not just abuse. It's a crime," she said, her voice fierce. Rosa watched Lila draw. A girl and a woman holding hands, standing in a garden. She recognized herself in the woman's apron. "That's drawing us," she whispered, her throat tight. Lila looked up, her eyes softer now. "You're my safe place," she said, her voice so quiet it was almost lost in the hum of the room. Rosa's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "Always, Pequeña." Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing as news of the search spread. Social media was already buzzing with hashtags like #Lila Monroe and #Justice for Lila. Rosa felt the world closing in, but Lila's focus on her sketchbook kept her grounded. She prayed the letter would be enough to protect her. 2 hours later, the courtroom reconvened, the air thick with anticipation. A detective took the stand, holding an evidence bag. "Your Honor, we found over $300,000 in cash hidden in the basement of Mr. Monroe's residence, along with falsified ledgers suggesting money laundering." The gallery gasped audibly, Claire clutching her lawyer's arm tightly. Gregory's lawyer stood, his voice faltering. "This could belong to anyone. My client—" The judge cut him off. "Save it for the criminal trial. This court is concerned with Lila's safety." He turned to Lila, his voice gentle. "Child, you've seen enough today. You're dismissed from the witness stand." Lila nodded, her clutching her sketchbook tightly as Rosa helped her down. As they left the stand, Gregory's eyes burned into Rosa's back. She felt a chill, but she held Lila's hand tightly, her resolve unshaken. The truth was out, but the battle was far from won. Gregory's wealth and connections meant he'd fight back, and Rosa knew she'd need to stay vigilant. Claire took the stand, her voice trembling but resolute. "I didn't know about the money, Your Honor, but I knew Gregory was dangerous. I stayed too long thinking I could protect Lila. I failed her once, but I won't again." Tears fell, but she held her head high. "She needs me now, more than ever." Judge Hargrove nodded, his expression softening. "Mrs. Lopez, your testimony aligns with Lila's letter, but I need to ensure the child's safety." He glanced at Rosa, who stood protectively near Lila. "Ms. Alvarez, you've played a significant role. Is there anything else we should know?" Rosa hesitated, then spoke. "Lila's not just scared of her father, she's scared of what he might do to anyone she loves. That's why she didn't speak until now. She trusts me to keep her safe, and I'll do that with everything I have." Her words struck a chord. The courtroom quiet but moved. Gregory's lawyer called him to the stand, a desperate move to salvage his case. Gregory sat tall, his voice steady but laced with desperation. "I love my daughter. I'd never hurt her. That money, She's being manipulated by her mother and that maid to ruin my life." His eyes flicked to Rosa, venomous. Lila tensed, her fingers tapping her sketchbook rapidly. Rosa knelt beside her, whispering, "He can't touch you now, pequeña." Lila nodded, her eyes fixed on the judge, as if willing him to see the truth. The courtroom watched, torn between Gregory's polished demeanor and Lila's raw fear. Judge Hargrove leaned forward, his voice icy. "Mr. Monroe, your daughter's letter and the evidence suggest otherwise. I advise you to reserve your defense for your criminal proceedings." Gregory's composure cracked, his hands clenching. The room sensed his unraveling, and tension spiked. As Gregory's testimony faltered, Lila tapped her sketchbook again. 3 times, a new signal. Rosa's heart raced. They hadn't practiced this one. She glanced at Lila, who slid a folded drawing under her hand. Rosa opened it discreetly, her eyes widening. It showed a man handing money to a police officer, with Lila watching from a window. Rosa stood, her voice urgent. "Your Honor, Lila has another message." She handed the drawing to the bailiff, ignoring Gregory's shout of protest. The judge studied the image, his face darkening. "Ms. Alvarez, explain this." "Lila saw her father bribe an officer," Rosa said, her voice steady. "That's why she was afraid to go to the police. She drew this today, in court, to show what she's been hiding." The courtroom exploded in murmurs, reporters' phones buzzing with live updates. Gregory's lawyer slumped, his case crumbling. Judge Hargrove slammed his gavel, restoring order. He looked at Lila, his voice grave. "Lila, you've shown extraordinary courage today." To Claire, he said, "Mrs. Lopez, I'm granting you full custody effective immediately. Mr. Monroe, you'll face separate charges for suspected criminal activity." Claire sobbed, rushing to Lila's side, who hugged her mother for the first time that day. Rosa stood back, her eyes glistening. The judge addressed her directly. "Ms. Alvarez, this court commends your dedication to this child. You've given her a voice when she needed it most." Rosa nodded, tears falling silently. As the bailiffs led Gregory away, he turned, his voice low but menacing. "This isn't end here." Lila flinched, but Rosa stepped in front of her, her gaze fierce. "It ends now," she whispered. The courtroom emptied, but Lila's story was just beginning to spread. By evening, Lila's signal was national news. TV networks replayed courtroom sketches of her tapping the sketchbook, while Twitter X exploded with number Lila and Rosa trending. Commenters praised Rosa's courage, calling her Lila's hero, while others demanded justice for Gregory's crimes. A GoFundMe for Lila's therapy skyrocketed. In a quiet courthouse office, Lila sat with Claire and Rosa, eating a vending machine sandwich. Claire held her daughter close, whispering, "You're my miracle." Lila smiled faintly, drawing a flower in her sketchbook. Rosa watched, her heart swell, knowing their bond would endure this storm. Outside, Rosa's family called from Guatemala, their voices proud. "You stood up for that girl, Rosa," her brother said. She nodded, but her worry lingered. Gregory's threat echoed in her mind, and she vowed to stay vigilant for Lila's sake. The next day, Rosa found her car vandalized outside her office. Her tires slashed, a note taped to the windshield. "You'll pay for this." She reported it to police, her stomach churning. Claire insisted Rosa stay at their safe house, a small apartment arranged by authorities. "Your family now," Claire said firmly. Lila overheard, her eyes wide. She drew a picture of Rosa with a halo, slipping it into her apron pocket. "You're my angel," she whispered, her voice stronger now. Rosa hugged her tightly, tears falling. And you're mine, Pequeña. But we've got to be careful. The police linked the vandalism to one of Gregory's associates, escalating the investigation. Rosa felt the pressure mounting, but Lila's trust kept her grounded. She wasn't just a maid, she was a guardian, and she'd face any threat to protect her. That evening, Augusta's community rallied outside the courthouse, holding signs reading, "We stand with Lila." Lila watched from a balcony, clutching Rosa's hand, her eyes wide with awe. A local pastor spoke. "This child and her protector remind us what courage looks like." The crowd cheered, their voices a shield against Gregory's threats. Claire addressed the crowd, her voice strong. Lila's voice was silenced, but Rosa gave it back. "We won't let fear win." Lila tapped her sketchbook, smiling at Rosa. She drew a crowd of people holding hands, a symbol of their support. Rosa clapped, her heart full. Reporters interviewed Rosa, who spoke humbly. "I did what any woman would for a child she loves." Her words went viral, inspiring thousands to share stories of standing up for others. Lila's signal had sparked a movement, and Rosa was its heart. Weeks later, Lila and Claire settled into their safe house, with Rosa visiting daily. Lila's mutism was fading. She spoke in short sentences, her voice growing stronger. She drew pictures of happy moments, like baking with Rosa or reading with Claire, each one a step toward healing. Rosa worked with police, providing details about Gregory's associates. They uncovered a network of corruption, leading to more arrests. "You've done enough," the detective said, but Rosa shook her head. "Not until Lila's safe for good." Her resolve inspired the team. Lila gave Rosa a bracelet she'd made from blue ribbon, matching her braid. "So you won't forget me?" she said, smiling. Rosa laughed, her eyes misty. "I could never, Pequeña." Their bond was a beacon, guiding them through the darkness. Gregory's criminal trial loomed, but the custody case was closed. Claire received permanent custody, with Lila's therapy funded by a court order. Rosa testified in the corruption case, her voice unwavering despite threats from Gregory's allies. "I'm doing this for Lila," she told the jury. Lila attended a therapy session, drawing a picture of herself speaking in court. "I wasn't scared with Rosa there," she said, her therapist beaming. Claire watched, tears in her eyes. "She's coming back to us," she told Rosa later. Rosa nodded. She never left. The community honored Rosa with a key to the city, a rare gesture for a small town. She accepted it for Lila by her side, saying, "This belongs to Lila's courage." The crowd roared, their applause echoing, a viral moment shared worldwide. One night, Rosa received an anonymous call, a voice hissing, "Back off, or the girl suffers." She alerted police, who traced it to a burner phone linked to Gregory's network. Claire moved Lila to a new safe house, but Rosa refused to hide. "I'm not leaving her," she said fiercely. Lila overheard, drawing a picture of Rosa fighting a monster. "You're stronger than them," she whispered. Rosa hugged her, her resolve hardening. "We're stronger together, Pequeña." She installed alarms and stayed with them, a guardian against the shadows. Police arrested the caller, a hired thug, breaking the last of Gregory's influence. Rosa exhaled, relief washing over her. Lila's signal had not only saved her, but cleaned a city's corruption. Months later, Lila and Claire planted a garden at their new home, with Rosa's help teaching Lila to nurture basil and sunflowers. Lila spoke freely now, her voice bright, though she still drew when words felt heavy. Rosa watched her laugh, digging in the soil, and felt peace settle in her chest. Claire started a foundation for abuse survivors, naming it Lila's Voice. Rosa joined as an advocate, sharing their story at conferences. One signal changed everything, she said, inspiring others to protect vulnerable kids. Lila clapped, proud of her second mom. Lila drew a mural for the garden, a girl, a woman, and a sun rising above. "That's us," she told Rosa, smiling. Rosa nodded, tears falling. "Forever, pequeña." Their bond was a living testament to courage and love. Lila's story went global, with Rosa and Lila invited to a national talk show. Lila spoke briefly, her signal, her voice clear. "Rosa saved me," she said, holding her hand. Rosa added, "She saved us all." The audience stood, applauding, tears streaming. The show aired with millions watching, number Lila and Rosa, trending worldwide. Lila's drawings were displayed, sparking art campaigns for trauma survivors. Rosa urged viewers, "Listen to kids, they're telling you their truth." Her words resonated, driving shares. Back home, Lila hugged Rosa. "We're famous." Rosa laughed, ruffling her hair. "We're just us, pequeña, but we're strong." Their story had changed lives, and they'd use it to keep fighting. Augusta unveiled a statue of a girl with a sketchbook and an older woman, honoring Lila and Rosa. Lila touched the bronze ribbon, smiling. "It's us forever," she said. Rosa nodded, her heart swelling. "Our courage lives here now." Claire's foundation grew, opening shelters nationwide. Lila spoke at their first, her voice steady. "Don't be afraid to tell your truth." Rosa stood behind her, proud. Their story inspired laws protecting child witnesses, named Lila's Law. Social media buzzed with stories of people using secret signals to seek help, inspired by Lila. Rosa read each, moved. "You started this, pequeña," she told Lila. Lila grinned, drawing a new picture, a world where kids felt safe. Years later, Lila graduated middle school, her voice strong, her art a local legend. She gave Rosa a framed drawing, their first kitchen moment, now with a garden blooming around them. "You gave my voice back," she said. Rosa cried, hugging her tightly. Rosa visited Guatemala, bringing Lila and Claire to meet her family. They cooked together, Lila teaching Rosa's nieces her signals. "You're a hero, Tia," they said. Rosa smiled. "Lila's the hero. I just listened." Lila's drawings were exhibited nationally, raising funds for abuse survivors. Rosa attended each show, her apron now a badge of honor. Their bond was unbreakable, a legacy of love. Across Maine, communities adopted Lila's signals, teaching kids to communicate fear safely. Schools launched art therapy programs, inspired by Lila's sketchbook. Rosa trained advocates, her voice a beacon. "Every child deserves a Rosa," one said, moved. Lila spoke at a UN Youth Summit, her voice global. "A signal can change everything," she said, showing her sketchbook. Rosa watched via live stream, tears falling. "That's my pequeña," she whispered. The world listened, inspired. People shared Number My Signal stories online, from kids to adults, crediting Lila and Rosa. Their courtroom moment had sparked a movement, proving one child's courage could reshape the world. One summer evening, Lila, Claire, and Rosa sat in their garden, fireflies dancing around them. Lila sketched, her pencil flying, capturing their laughter. "This is home," she said, smiling. Claire nodded. "Because of you both." Rosa squeezed their hands, complete. Lila's voice opened its 100th shelter, with Rosa as director. She trained staff with Lila's signals, ensuring no child felt silenced. Lila visited, drawing murals for each, her art a symbol of hope. As stars emerged, Rosa looked at Lila, now a confident teen. "You changed me, pequeña," she said. Lila grinned. "We changed each other." Their story was a light, guiding others to safety. At a national rally for child safety, Lila and Rosa took the stage, their bond radiant. Lila spoke, her voice powerful. "I gave a signal, and Rosa heard me. Your signal matters. Speak it, draw it, share it." The crowd roared, phones sharing her words. Rosa closed, her voice fierce. "Listen to the kids in your life. Their truth can change the world. Who's ready to hear them?" Thousands cheered, pledging to protect. Lila held up a drawing, a world of signals, shining bright. As they left the stage, a girl approached, clutching a sketchbook. "I have a signal," she whispered. Lila knelt, smiling. "I'll listen just like Rosa did." Rosa nodded, proud. Their story lived on, sparking countless others. Share your signal below. What's your truth?